What's up, everybody? Welcome to Podcast Now. I'm Alex, and today I'm here to give you my Friday the 13th expert tips and tricks. So the reason I'm making this video is pretty simple, actually. I made an original tips and tricks video for Friday the 13th when the game came out, and it did extremely well. You guys really liked it, most of you. But those were like basic tips and tricks. You know, I had just played the game. I knew what I was doing, but I didn't exactly know everything, right? Now, I've played this game a very long time, easily 60, 70 plus hours. I'm a level 29. I've played quite a bit of matches, both as Jason and as the counselors, a lot of different counselors. So I'm here to kind of talk about the more advanced things. So this is for players that have played the game quite a bit, or even players that are just starting out, to really get you a leg up. I do fully believe that these tips and tricks are going to give you a leg up. And it's also for another reason that people have gotten very good at this game. Jasons have gotten much better, and counselors have gotten much better. And so I've been part of that group. And I want to talk to you about how I think that you can still be better than the other people. And even though that other players are better, I want you guys to be even better than them. So let's start out with Jason. Okay, now I play as the normal, flat out normal Jason, the one with the retro skin that you could play as. That is my personal favorite Jason. He can run. He's pretty strong. I like his pros. That's basically, I mainly like that he can run. I know the other ones have their advantages, but I'm going to be talking specifically about him, but these work for any Jason. First thing you do when you start the game as Jason, you pick up the knives, right? That's obvious. Throughout the entire match, you're going to want to pick up as many knives as you can. Those are handy. You got to get good at throwing. That's a thing that's just separate. You got to get good at throwing because there's different opportunities to throw knives to injure the counselor, slow him down. So pick up knives whenever you can. But as soon as you start the game, the match, and you're in Jason's house, his cabin, you pick up the knives. You immediately warp to the phone booth. That's the first place you go. Now, I said in the original tips and tricks, I think I said to go to the cars first or whatever. I don't honestly remember what I said, and I think that's good because I want to come into this fresh. You go to the phone booth first. The way the game has been updated and the way players play now, phone booth is the most dangerous to you as Jason. Calling the cops obviously lets the cops come 5 minutes. That is a very short amount of time, especially if they do it early on. Now, me as a counselor, I have done that before. I've called the cops within the first 2-3 minutes of the game. They've made the fuse easier to find through updates, and I know that people have said that. So the fuse is easier to find, and the fuse box is only ever in a couple different spots, and it depends on the map. But it's either at the big yellow house, depending on which map you're doing, or it's at a designated house. Sometimes it's at different places, but you can most often tell which house it's going to be. So as Jason, you need to get to that house immediately, and you can see it, obviously. It's the phone icon on the map. You teleport there, and you place a trap right there. Traps are obviously the most important thing to do in this game as Jason, I think. I think by far. Not just to trap them, because that doesn't even matter. Just to know you got everything handled, that you know where everything is. I had Tyler play it a little bit a while ago, and I told him that this is just to make sure you know what's going on in the key areas. So the phone booth, that's the first place. After that, you're most likely going to find a counselor or two around the phone booth. Kill them. Do whatever you want. Do whatever you want. Kill counselors. Look for knives. Do whatever until the same morph ability, the map ability, the circle button, or B on Xbox or whatever it is on PC. Wait until that comes back. Next thing you're going to do is you're going to want to go to the cars or the boat. Most places have the cars, obviously. The boat is often rarer to be placed in the map than a car is. So we're going to be talking about both, though, either or. You want to pick a vehicle. If it's the car, you go to the car. You place it at the hood of the car where they're going to place the battery. That's where you place your next trap. And then you kill. You start killing. By this point, you have sense. At this point, you may even have the teleport one, the square button or the X button where you can kind of glide along when you're invisible and appear right next to them if you're good enough. So at this point, you've got most of your abilities as Jason unlocked. You're going to want to kill somebody because at this point, you've visited the phone area and you've visited the cars, and the game, just by nature, places counselors in these key spots. So there's going to be people around here. You want to kill them as quickly as you possibly can, as early on as you possibly can, and I'll get back to that in a later tip. Next thing you want to do is you're going to want to go to the last vehicle. So, the first 3 things you're going to do, you're going to teleport to all 3 key areas. The phone booth first. Do not leave that to the end. Phone booth, vehicle, vehicle. Doesn't matter the order of the vehicle. Oftentimes, they'll go for the fuse with the phone fast. They'll go there almost immediately because that's their best chance to escape. And I'll talk about that from a counselor point of view in a second. That's what you're going to want to do as Jason. Now, side things, side tricks are when you're breaking down a door, you can hold R2, or you can hold R trigger, you can hold whatever, the right click on the mouse. But what I find is easier is to get into your stance when you hit R3. That is the easiest way when you get into like the fighting stance. Then you hit the hitting button. That makes it go faster. That way you can knock down a door much quicker than if you were to hold down the hit button. And you know, the same thing goes, as I said in the tips and tricks. You don't always have to break the door down all the way. Be aware of where the counselors are. If you see them jump out the window, don't break the door down all the way. Pick which counselor you're going to go after. Try and stay after the same one. If you're chasing one and he leads you to another one, try and chase that same one you chase. And I'll tell you why. I do this as a counselor a lot. I try and bait Jason into attacking another counselor. Is that the best thing to do as a team? No. But sometimes you have to look out for yourself. And again, I'll talk about that from the counselor point of view. As Jason, you need to go after the same person. Because why? Well, they have stamina, right? And they have speed. They will run out. If you fall for that trick where they try and bait you into attacking the second person, you're now attacking a person that has full stamina. Whereas if you go after the same person, if you just hound one person, you will get to them. There's no doubt. Unless they're masters at juking, at jumping in and out of windows when you're going inside the house and they elude your traps and whatnot, you're going to get them. So you want to just focus on one counselor and go after them until they're dead. Okay? That's that trick. A thing to note is when you're attacking them, I know it's kind of looked down upon at times, but here's the best way to kill a counselor. Early on in the game, I'd say under the first 5 minutes, grabbing is completely fine. I know grabbing is fun, right? You get the animation kills and all that stuff. It's a lot of fun to do. And grabbing obviously is more effective. You have a better chance. As soon as you grab onto them, you pick your kill animation, you're good. Early on in the match is your best chance at pulling that off because they won't have knives, they won't have anything to defend themselves, firecrackers, etc. As the round gets later, obviously they're going to have more stuff. If they're in a group, if they have weapons, if they seem like they know what they're doing, basically, then you know as Jason, you can at least assume that they may have knives. And so you're going to be wasting your time by grabbing them because you're going to get stabbed and you're going to be, you're going to be a little bit foggy for a couple seconds. Who knows what they could pull off in that amount of time. This goes for when you're grabbing out of the car, and that'll be a separate little thing I got to talk about too. But what I suggest doing is R2ing them or hitting them, just base hit them 1 to 2 times before you grab them. If they don't have the thick skinned perk on, they're not going to be able to take that many hits without getting injured. What this does is you're weakening them for the possibility that they could do something to you. If you injure them or they put their hand on their shoulder, even if then you grab them and they break out, they're not going to get far. In fact, they're basically still screwed because they can only go so far. Even if they do the med kit, they heal themselves, you have to stop to spray yourself. So what you got to do is you got to hit them first. And I know people don't like it when Jasons do that. There's like a word for it. I can't remember off the top of my head, but people like call Jasons that when they do it. I understand that it's not exactly fair, but there's ways of going around it as a counselor. But that's what I suggest doing as Jason. Hit them first. Base hit them. Injure them. Hit them enough to injure them, and then you can grab them. Because then even if they escape, you can still get them. They're not going to get far. Final thing is vehicles. This boat doesn't exactly do the same thing. If they're in the boat, you just got to get in front of them as Jason. Do your morph, get in front of them in the map, come up underneath them, hound them. You go faster in the water. But I find that people in the boat oftentimes escape, or Jasons just don't care as much in the boat as they do in a car. Now, cars are tricky. And, you've seen tricks of how to handle this, probably as a counselor, if you watch things like Ohmwrecker or H2O Delirious or Bryce Games, if you've seen things like that, they've done successful getaways from a car. As Jason, here's what you need to do. Again, you need to be aware. You need to place the traps. You need to have your volume on so you can hear when they make mistakes when they're installing things. That's the first, layer of defense. Another one is the trap. If they set off the trap, figure out which trap they set off and teleport there immediately. That's what you got to do no matter what. If you're chasing somebody and a trap goes off, you know that's an important area. It could be the phone for all you know. So you got to get there quickly. So teleport there. When the car starts moving, you have a couple options. What I suggest is you do the morph, the teleport, where it's the square button in the special abilities. That is what you do first. You do not do the map jump, where you can teleport anywhere on the map. You don't do that yet. Try and do the morph, where you can kind of glide through the air, get in front of them, obviously. Right? That is your main goal, is to stop that car, get in front of them. If they get too far, where you feel like you're not going to catch them with that ability, then you do the map. Make sure when you do the map that you teleport far, far away from the car, far down the road. Make sure it's obviously where they're going to end up driving. And obviously it's going to place you not on the road. You got to remember that. It's not going to place you on the road. So that's why you want to put yourself far enough away from the car so that it happens. Then just get ready to hit them. Oftentimes they'll do their own little juke and they'll dodge. But oftentimes they'll end up hitting something themselves if they do that. Next up is what you do after that. They're all going to get out of the car. That's obvious. They're going to want to stun you. That's their main goal, is to stun you. They need to get the car started, so you need to get a guy in the driver's seat. You're obviously going to pull the driver's guy out of the car. As soon as you pull the driver's guy out of the car, you want to kill him, obviously. Hit X. Hit the fastest kill animation that you have. That's the best way to get rid of that guy. Hope he doesn't have a knife. Honestly, if he has a knife, just get ready to stop the car reversing itself. That's that trick. But I know they're going to all try and hit you. This is where that trick comes into a play. Do not grab. You have to grab the guy that comes out of the car, right? Anybody that takes his or her place afterwards, you have to pull them out of the driver's seat. That's obvious. That it just brings you into the animation. But you're going to want to hit everybody else. Base hit. You don't want to pick them up. They're going to be throwing firecrackers at you. They're going to be swinging bats. They're going to be shooting shotguns. They're going to be shooting flare guns. You don't want to be grabbing them when they're doing that. You want to R2 them, RT them. Right trigger, click the mouse, whatever. You want to hit them. You want to get them so that they're holding their shoulder and they're injured. That's the best way to handle it. I know it's a cheaper way to kill somebody, but it's the most effective way. And like I said, counselors are getting better and Jasons are getting better, but they're not really always the best. As soon as I go to the fuse box, and I see that it's not trapped, and this is like 3, 4, 5 minutes into the game, I know I'm not dealing with an experienced Jason. Because experienced, good Jasons, they always trap that phone. So that's how you play as Jason. Let's talk about the counselors now. Obviously, this is harder. And as a counselor, it's much more difficult to read the situation, right? It really just depends on what you're placed with. So these don't always work. A lot of times you just have to feel out the mood and see how you're going to do things. A couple things to note, though. Play the counselor that you feel most comfortable playing and play them the way they should be played. If you're playing a high intelligence character or a repair character, you want to be the one to repair things. Or you want to be the one to call the cops. You want to be the one to fix the car. Communication is super important. I'll get to that. Rolling the perks are also important. Getting perks that kind of balance your character out. If you have a character with no stamina, try and get a perk that has stamina. If you have a character that has low composure or fear, get one that makes it so you have a buffer where if the lights go out, you're not as scared. Get those. You want to make your character an all-around character, no matter what character you have. Don't be a track star if you're not a track star. Don't be a repair person if you're a dumb woman. Just don't do it. So play the character how they're supposed to be played is the first thing. Second thing, you're going to be spawned at a random spot. First things first, you're going to want to obviously, and this is an obvious thing, but it's also not so obvious. You want to get whatever you possibly can, but you really want to know your environment and your surroundings. Oftentimes you'll spawn near a car, or you'll spawn, heaven forbid, near the phone, the fuse. You're going to want to get away from there. Because even though Jasons aren't always that good, oftentimes they will immediately, if they don't go for the phone, they'll go for a vehicle. So if you're by a car, Sadly, you're probably going to get attacked by Jason immediately because they're going to go for the car first. Why? Like I said, I don't know. It gives you a better chance of calling the cops, and then we'll get to that too. So you want to know where you are. If you're near a vehicle or you're near like a big landmark, basically, for Jason, you want to get as far away from that as you can early on. You can come back later. Don't worry about it. But you got to leave. Remember, Jason can't see you early on in the game. When he teleports to that first spot, he can't even sense you yet. And if he can only do a small proximity. If you're far enough away, he can't see you. He's going to go somewhere else as soon as the map power-up is back up. So he's going to leave you alone for the most part. So you can always go back to the phone or you can always go back to the vehicle. But in the very, very beginning, when you have nothing to defend yourself with, you don't want to be near those because Jason is going to come for you. Next up is communication and whether or not to be in groups. Now, in my tips and tricks, I'm almost positive I said don't be in groups, and I stand by that. Here's the thing. Groups are important if you choose to make them important. If you have the right communication. If you're talking to people, the game sometimes goes more smooth. I have escaped and survived literally dozens of times, 20 plus times, without talking to anybody, with my mic unplugged, talking to nobody. It's not a necessity. However, it can make life easier. If you can coordinate what you're doing with the other people and they're actually talking, because a lot of times they don't, you can make life easier. You can distract Jason while somebody repairs a car. You can call the cops while somebody's going after Jason. But here's the thing. You don't always need to talk to people to do that. Look at your map often. Very often. Notice what the other people are doing. If there's a huge group around a car, don't go to that car. If you're far away, you stay far away. Here's the thing. Jason's going to go to that car, and he's going to find those 5 people, and half of them are going to die, at least. You don't want to be part of that group. Instead, you could be doing something else. And I know people have, commented on this stuff with problems with that, but that's ultimately where it comes from. It's not being mean, and it's not being not a team player. If there's a bunch of people by the car, you don't have to join them. It doesn't mean your odds of survival are higher. Jason's going to kill a couple of you. Why make it be you? Why not while they're fixing the car and distracting Jason, because Jason will definitely follow them? Why not you look for the phone fuse and you call the cops? That way you're putting pressure on Jason. As the counselor, you need to put as much pressure on Jason early on as you possibly can. Getting the car or getting the boat started up is a great way of doing that, obviously, but you do not need to be in groups. I find being the lone wolf, being alone by myself, is the best strategy. He doesn't really look for individual people. Jason's look for groups of people. If you're with more than one person, not only is he going to find you easier, but you're going to just be bigger targets. So I suggest being far away from them. That doesn't mean you don't have to talk to them. You can communicate and say, hey, I'm going to search these 4 houses, and you report whatever you find. Maybe you find the battery. Well, run it to the car and run back. Don't stand by the car. You could be the delivery man. I know a lot of people have called it that. You could be the delivery person. Find the phone fuse. Install it for them. You do your own things while they do their own things. If you're in a group, you need to be careful. You can't make much noise. You need to actually work as a group. Now, if you're Jason and you do that whole hitting them thing, it's much harder to defend as a counselor. As a counselor, you want Jason to grab you as much as possible. You want to get the bulkier, big weapons and stronger characters, or if you're a weak female, you need to get the perks. If you want to be a fighter, you need to get the perks to obviously make it so you have a higher stun chance. And you're going to want to have Jason pick you up. That's the most important thing. Have Jason pick you up. When Jason picks you up, your other teammates hits him. When you're in the car and you're escaping, as soon as the car stops, if it stops, heaven forbid, you all get out, you wait for Jason to grab somebody, you stun him, you start the car, you go. That is the trick. It's as easy as that. Just because it's easy doesn't mean it always works. In fact, it doesn't work that often. It works maybe 25% of the time. But you wait for Jason to grab, you hit him, you stun him, you get back in the car. Same thing just normally. If he grabs you, you wait for him to grab you, you stun him. Don't try and fight him. He's just going to end up injuring you. And that's what you do if you're with more than one person. You have to work together. And like I said, another thing as a counselor is if you don't care about anybody, like oftentimes I don't, try and get Jason to kill somebody else. I had a Let's Play up where I was fixing the phone and I led Jason twice to different groups of people and he attacked that other person instead of me, allowing me a chance to hide, gain my stamina back, and Jason was busy focused on them. That's a fantastic way of getting rid of Jason if he falls for it, and they will not always fall for it. So that's all I got, really. If there's anything else I think about, I'll definitely put in the comments below. But I want to know what you guys think of these tips and tricks. Do you guys use them? Is there anything that I missed in terms of, Jason, or as a counselor? Like I said, a lot of times as counselor, you just got to be smart. You got to really read the situation, know when it's time to escape with the cops, know when to fix the vehicle, know when to just survive in general. Obviously, get the weapons you feel most comfortable about and all that stuff. So I want to know what you guys think of the tips and tricks in general. Let me know in the comments below. If you like this, we could do it again for if there's a DLC. If there's DLC for Friday the 13th, I'll have tons of stuff up for that when that comes out. Thank you guys for watching. Make sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel, Podcast Now. Like and share this video, and I will see you guys on the next Friday the 13th video.